The following presentation is part of the Beyond the Blast Doors network.
Dark Troopers in Star Wars mean endless possibilities. What's their relationship to the child? We're going to explore that and how it might mean Moff Gideon is about to solidify himself as a top villain in Star Wars.
Plus, fans question Gina Carano's place in Star Wars. We dive into the conflicts between the Mandalorian actor and those who once saw her as a breath of fresh air.
And why we think the Mandalorian is a staging ground for the Star Wars equivalent of the MCU. Jordan Mason with Cinelinx stops by. BTBD Live starts right now.
The farthest reaches of the galaxy, the Midwest. You're watching Beyond the Blast Doors live.
Star Wars fans around the world brace for the live-action debut of Ahsoka Tano, searching for Ahsoka and Gideon's Dark Trooper project. We also have Jordan Mason. We've got a lot to cover on this episode of BTBD Live, episode 98. So glad that you are with us here on this incredible, exciting Wednesday night. We're going to have a lot of and we're really thrilled that we can be in the Star Wars conversation together. I'm not by myself, by the way. And if, by the way, this is your first time checking out BTBD Live, hi there. Welcome. If you're back to continue the Star Wars conversation, I'm David, and I'm really excited to be with you. And I'm not alone. Oh, absolutely not, because I am with my friend Arezou. Arezou, the up-and-coming Canadian TV writer. How the hell are you on this fine Wednesday?
I am good. How are you?
I'm doing really well. You know, here in the States, it is Thanksgiving, and I just learned right before the show that in Canada, you guys celebrate Thanksgiving like way early.
Second Monday in October, because our harvest is sooner. So we celebrate the harvest sooner.
How does this work out? And I'm going to show my ignorance and maybe how my education has depleted over the last 7 years. But why is it early? I mean, you mentioned that it's an earlier harvest, but is it the same Thanksgiving? Like, is it still?
No, we don't have the Mayflower and the coming over and the friendships didn't go well. I mean, that happened here. I'm not pretending that didn't, but we don't have the same sort of beat for beat narrative that the States does. Okay, very interesting. Something new I learned here on this Wednesday, and we'll talk about later in the show. Arezou's going to play along. We're going to talk about what we're most thankful for. So even though she celebrated Thanksgiving a little while ago, she's still gonna participate with us tonight, and we want to know what everyone is thankful for. So to all those with us already in the live chat, want to say hi. And my goodness, the live chat has already taken off because we have Apprentice Ewok, Matthew, Nick Melky. We've got Gallinorian Saber in there. We got Gilster, and we got a few new faces too. I think I saw Andy hiding around. So it's really exciting to have you with us to talk a bunch of Mandalorian. We'll also talk a little Bad Batch, which I'm really excited about. The Clone Wars spinoff slated for Disney Plus here in the next 18 months, 2 years. So we're going to be talking about that. And we have Scotty J. Rowe and Mr. Rez jumping in the live chat as well. So we're so glad to see them. We do have a few exciting things happening on the network. And before I get to that, I do want to put out some headlines. These are things that have happened. We aren't going to talk about them in depth. But shout out to John Williams, his score for Star Wars, The Rise of Skywalker, up for a Grammy in the Best Score Soundtrack categories. And congrats to arguably the greatest film composer of all time. And I think you're not arguing over who's the best. I think we're all just going to argue over who's the second best. Then speaking of Rise of Skywalker, the comic adaptation that was slated to drop in June, that is canceled. It is not happening. And so when we dive into Beyond the Panel later in the show with Marie Wilson, we will get her take on that. And also, if you're a fan of Solo, A Star Wars Story, and vinyl, you can get a pretty cool exclusive print. More information on that right now at starwars.com. Later up in the show, Pete Fletzer is sitting out this week. However, he did do a quick interview with Toys for Tots as a way for us to build up more excitement around the Hyper Toy Drive. So we'll talk about that again. If you haven't heard, you've been living under a rock watching our content. We're doing the Hyper Toy Drive this year, getting toys for kids in needs through Toys for Tots. 12 content creators across the Star Wars fandom collaborating. So it's pretty cool to see how there have been dozens and dozens of toys. I think we're over 120 gifts sent to our PO box already. So really exciting. It wraps up next week.
So we'll talk about that, and we'll hear from a representative of Toys for Tots. Also coming up in the later in the show, your last chance to win or get an entry to win the Star Wars Black Series Snow Speeder valued at $120. So this is a really big deal, and we're really excited about this because just having the opportunity to do this, Josh Most over there at Holo Chronicles made this possible. And if you guys are like, oh, he's bluffing, it's not there. It's real. Like we're going to give this thing away. It's still boxed, sign, seal, deliver. It is yours. So we're excited to be able to give that away on the show. And without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and say it's time to get into the first topic of the show. Arezou, are you ready?
I'm ready.
All right,
I'm
cool.
ready.
I made a special graphic for it, so I hope this goes well. But for the first topic this week on BTBD Live, episode 98, what's a Dark Trooper? The Mandalorian Chapter 12 drops some big news on us, and it has this all giddy for Gideon in Chapter 13. That's right, because last week the Seige, directed by Carl Weathers, oh my goodness, it had action, it had thrills, it had humors. Apparently there's cloning going around in The Mandalorian. It makes a lot of sense, right? Dr. Pershing had that logo on his sleeve in season 1. We all thought something was going on. And so Arezou, it seems like we need to really understand what are Dark Troopers, what's going to be the impact potentially on the Star Wars story here.
Right.
Because when that scene first opened up, were you aware of what was going on? Because at first, I really thought they were clones of Vader. I thought it was Vader armor that was up in the wall with the tubes hooked up. And then a closer look, I was like, oh, that might be a Dark Trooper helmet. And then the internet, we kind of figured it out together. Was that how you digested that scene, or did you have a different take?
I saw people going, oh, it's Vader clones, it's Dark Troopers, it's Death Troopers. I'm like, so those aren't empty flight suits, because that's what I thought they were.
Mm-hmm.
Like, like TIE pilot suits that were just kind of hanging and waiting to be used. I'm like, okay, sinister, they have an army, but I didn't realize that those were meant to be like bodies. So I have a lot of canon in my head, but like late 90s, early 2000s video game are not on my radar. So thanks to the lovely people at this network, everybody kind of caught me up on Dark Troopers.
Well, and I and you're exactly right, though, because in Star Wars Legends, as it's known today, Arezou, the Dark Trooper is from the video game Star Wars Dark Forces, which, by the way, if you haven't already, you should definitely check out the conversation we just had last week with John Knowles of LucasArts. He was there in the 90s and early 2000s, and he's responsible for Dark Forces along with other games. And so it's really interesting to see how the Dark Trooper has arrived here in canon, because like I said, Dark Forces in current canon, it's in their Star Wars Commander, for example, very similar to the Purge Trooper we see in Force Unleashed. And so it's really interesting, again, how Disney, Lucasfilm, Dave Filoni, Jon Favreau, they're taking what is a fan favorite from the EU and they're repurposing it, which is really exciting, I think, for several reasons. And the evolution of it is something that I want to dive into in a little bit. But I just think that this is not like a love letter to fans, but it's like anyone who's been invested in the story for 3 decades, or anyone who's taken time to go back and find out about who these Dark Troopers are. Like, this is like an immediate payoff, Arezou, for them to see these on screen. Right. My question is, and I know that you have some of this that we've prepared. The Dark Trooper itself has kind of evolved. There's been a couple of phases. Can you break that down real quick about how, because they started out as droids, right? And then they evolved to, so like Iron Man armor. Down. Yeah.
Bear with me. But so they evolved into the Dark Trooper program.
Mm-hmm.
And the failure of this program is why the people in charge sort of started to distrust droids or combat droids. And then, so this is where these Phase 2 Dark Troopers come. And they were used during the Imperial military, during the Galactic Civil War, and the battle for Tatooine. So they're coming in stages. So I guess now, to your point, David, if they're being pulled from Legends and now being brought in, what phase are we in, I guess, would be my question now. What phase of this are we in? Where are we at? Because I know, like, timeline-wise, where we are, but
Yeah, I think that's
What
a
part
really
of this are they bringing in, I guess, would be my question.
I think it's really fascinating because we're in a moment, Arezou, where it seems every big Imperial baddie that we get has to have a big bad project they're in charge of. And it's up to them to do or die to impress the Emperor. Because if they fail, the story has a way of killing them. And so you have Tarkin, who has the Death Star, and you can argue Krennic, I understand.
Krennic has, poor Krennic. Like, poor Krennic.
Right, poor Krennic.
But, like, Krennic had the Death Star. Tarkin has his ambition.
Thrawn had the TIE Defender program, right? In Star Wars Rebels, we learn how he's trying to get TIEs. The whole purpose, I think, was getting them to hit hyperspace, right? So
yeah, that was so refreshing. The one Imperial project that had nothing to do with the Death Star. I'm like, good,
right?
yes.
It shows they've diversified how they want to ruin the galaxy. I mean, rule the galaxy. I'm sorry, ruin. I think what we're seeing here is this is Moff Gideon's project. This is the Dark Trooper. This is how the Empire is going to once again elevate itself. And what's interesting when you go through the canon, the lore of the Dark Trooper, the Empire, this is just one of those examples of how the Empire falls out of love with droids. So we're going to try and get humanoids to function within this technology that we've developed. Really excited to see how this unfolds. The question that I have, and I think a lot of people have on their mind, is are these Dark Troopers somehow connected to those creatures that we're seeing in the test tube in that laboratory on Nevarro? My assumption is they're two different things. They're in the same room. Or am I supposed to assume that they're actually the same thing? Is that being growing to be put into that armor? Where do you stand on this idea that the child is fuel for either whatever in that tank or for those troopers that are hooked up to all those tubes?
I think the child is fuel for the Pickle Snoke in the tank. I don't think that it's related to the Dark Troopers because I think, if it's a lab, then they've got more than one thing going on. So they're building these enhanced soldiers, and that's sort of, it looks like it's ready to go. Like those things look ready to deploy. But the clone in the tank clearly has a long way to go. Dr. Pershing says it's got a long way to go, and he's not confident in it. So I think they're two separate things.
I can roll with that. It would be good
because that's like two threats, right? So
I think you're right. A lot of speculation suggests that the creature in the tube is the precursor or the origins of the Snoke program. So the Emperor trying to find a way to create a clone that he can put his essence into. And again, Jon Favreau, Dave Filoni, we're pretty open about this when The Mandalorian was kicking off. This series is also going to give some insight into the origins of the First Order. And then we know the First Order was actually this program to buy some time. It was kind of a distraction to allow the Final Order to grow in strength out there in the unknown regions on Exegol. I would be curious to think if they would be so bold to show those as Snokes. I would almost imagine that those are some kind of maybe a cyborg. Maybe that's not the best term to use, but some cross that's being used to power this large Iron Man-like armor that is the Dark Trooper. And my idea would be that, are they trying to somehow create a program that these powerful beings would also be force sensitive, which is, I assume, why you would want the child, assuming that
the
it's M count.
That's why you need an M count.
Love the reference, by the way. I'm fine with midichlorians. It doesn't bother me at all. There's a science to Star Wars, and George Lucas wanted to explore that. So it works for me. That said, though, it would make more sense. Like, that's why the Snoke theory to me makes a lot of sense, is because the child having a high M count, at least that's assumption. I mean, 50 years young, the child seems very capable in the Force. And so could the child's DNA, blood, life force be able to fuel these early versions of the Snoke clone? Maybe. Maybe
I'm having a thought now.
Go ahead.
Maybe using like the child's blood, like because the child is not human and Snoke is humanoid, and like he's not force sensitive when they're creating him, and they inject him with this non-human force sensitive blood, could that be causing part of his distortion?
I like that idea. I like that idea a
Probably
lot.
not, but fun to think about.
I think it's well, and that's what's so exciting about this show. And to the credit of the creators and Disney and the format of Disney Plus, we get to do this every week. We get to do this every week together, which is take that 40, that 30 to 50 minutes that they give us and, kind of play with it, kind of imagine what could happen next. And this past week, I was kind of nervous about what this episode would do. It was a slow buildup. Slow. I felt like there was action, but my goodness, the last 3 minutes of this episode was the meat and the potatoes. I think Carl Weathers did a phenomenal job directing this episode, and the canon, the lore, the expansion, the potential that is now in The Mandalorian is huge. And Dave Filoni, he gets a 51-minute episode this week, and we assume that will be the live-action debut of Ahsoka Tano, which is really exciting. Does the Dark Trooper program, just knowing that, and I say knowing, we don't know. It could be something else, but we're pretty confident in Dark Trooper. In fact, if you listen to the episode with the audio impaired track, Dark Trooper is said. So it feels really safe to call them Dark Troopers. Arezou, does this program, Gideon's love child, the Dark Trooper, are we about to witness an event that could arguably make Moff Gideon one of the top villains in Star Wars, and he's had minimal screen time? But is he positioned to become one of the great villains in the catalog in the Star Wars galaxy?
I think he's in a good position to become a main villain to us, the audience, like to sort of become the ultimate threat, maybe to Mando, to the child, to this pocket of the story. I don't know how big his impact is going to be, because we know, 20 years from now, 25 years from now, that he wasn't the ultimate threat to the galaxy. So I think his influence in universe is limited, but I think in terms of the impact on the audience, I think that yes, that he's in that position to become up there with the other big bads.
I'm really excited to see what we get here with this next installment, because I think it's going to be really inspiring for fans. I think it's going to be a thrill. And we mentioned potentially the live action debut of Ahsoka Tano. We'll get to that later in the show, but just really thrilled to see what we get here. I personally think that Moff Gideon will be top tier. I'm saying it's Vader. I'm saying it's Tarkin. And I maybe Moff does take Krennic out of the top 3 for me. So it'll be really exciting to see what does unfold. Here's the thing, though, that's crazy is Moff Gideon doesn't probably even know he's going to get Ahsoka Tano when he tracks down the Mandalorian this week. If it plays out the way we think, he's just trying to get his hands on the child. So I think it's going to be really interesting to see how this unfolds for us. Arezou, anything about Moff Gideon, the Dark Troopers, that you want to address before we get out of here?
Now we can get out of here. I'm excited to see where it goes.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's dive into the live chat real quick to see what's going on. Andre says, I wonder if they are droids or armors, though. So I think maybe he's wondering if they're droids or if there's people underneath.
That's what I was thinking, too.
Yep.
Great mind,
Matthew, that Kenobi series will make heads explode and adults cry. Okay, so this is just an example of the other show that's happening. When we're doing the live show, the chat has a mind of its own. Andre again, Gideon wants to be force sensitive. I really like that idea. I like that idea a lot. He has the dark saber, and I think it'll be interesting to see how that's involved. Especially again, you get Ahsoka Tano in here. Bo-Katan is looking for Moff Gideon because she knows that he has the dark saber, which technically makes him the ruler of Mandalore. Does he have access to a location on Mandalore? I don't know. We'll find out. Nick says, I think Dark Troopers are going to be an experiment towards Palpatine's transference of consciousness. I think this is a solid theory, and I think that this could be something that does come to fruition. I think that one of the criticisms of The Rise of Skywalker, it just seems like there needed to be 15 minutes on the front end explaining how Palpatine came back, and maybe a flashback of how the Emperor did transfer his essence, and something like that. So maybe The Mandalorian is an opportunity to do just that. So really exciting to see that. Apprentice Ewok, I think it's also a big nod to the creators of EU stories. They wouldn't use this stuff if they didn't respect it and love it. I don't mind seeing EU stuff being brought in. No, I think that the EU has a lot of great stories that a lot of fans were passionate about, Arezou. And I think that what Disney has done is smart. From a business standpoint, we're going to put all that in a different category so we can tell all new stories the way we want to tell it. We can market it, we can sell it, and we can profit from it. But also to excite fans, those things that worked out really well, yeah, we're going to slide those in here over time. I think that's really cool.
I think that's good too. Like, you want to bring in the highlights, leave out all the weird, not the weird stuff, leave out all the stuff that didn't make any sense. Bring in the weird stuff, bring in the stuff people liked, and then make it internally consistent with this new story. Like, why not? You have a whole mine of 25 years worth of stories. Why not use it?
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. I just think it would be a shame to completely leave it alone. And there are elements that we've already seen through the EU that have been brought back. So very fascinating. And again, listen, there was a story in the EU where they tried cloning Luke and Vader. And so that's why I think that you have to be really respectful to those who think that it's an army of Vaders or Vader clones. That could be Vader specimens in those tubes. I mean, really, there's endless possibilities. And the cop-out is, well, if it's done right, well, then it's no big deal. That's the cop-out. It's not as easy as just saying, well, if it's done right.
It's done wrong.
Yeah, but if well, and that's the thing. Every decision they're going to make is such a gamble now because I feel like The Mandalorian has established itself as such a top-tier Star Wars expression of storytelling that, I mean, what do we do now? I mean, we're talking about this show. I mean, 3 of our 4 topics tonight is about The Mandalorian and how great it is. It's kind of like the big thing happening right now in the Star Wars world. Really love everyone's conversation in the live chat. I think it's super cool. I'm fingers crossed. I hope we're going to see Moff Gideon and Ahsoka Tano duel it out at some point here in live action. I just think that would be such a great experience. And Andy from Holo Chronicles, he even suggested that, Dave Filoni gets to bring the character to life on screen. Will he also be able to end her story on screen, which that has some implications of death. So we'll see if that comes to fruition. And do us a favor real quick, if you don't mind, hit that like button on this episode if you haven't already. If this is your first time to be on the Blast Doors, welcome. If you're back to continue our Star Wars conversation, welcome as well. Hit the thumbs up, hit the subscribe button. And when you do that, make sure you hit that bell notification, because that means when we go live for BTBD Live or our other shows here on the network, or we drop new videos, you're the first to find out. We can continue that Star Wars conversation. We have a friend of the show standing by right now, so I want to go ahead and bring her in right now because this is how we talk Star Wars comics every week. It's the incredibly gifted. Marie Wilson has the ability to remember so much Star Wars story. It is insane. Marie, how are we doing tonight?
I'm fabulous. How are y'all?
We're doing really well. I want to bring on Marie right now just to talk about the new issue, Dr. Aphra. So I'm going to have Arezou. Arezou's going to step aside for just a quick bit, but when we come back, we are talking about Gina Carano and whether or not she should remain in The Mandalorian. A lot of fan outrage, and some fans don't think there's a problem at all. So coming up in about 8 minutes, we're going to be talking about that here on BTBD Live. Arezou, we'll see you in a second.
All right. Have fun.
All right. Oh, we're going to have all the fun in the world because we're talking Star Wars comics. Marie Wilson, happy Thanksgiving. How are you doing?
Great. I'm excited to talk. I can only say so much about this issue, though, because there was a huge, big surprise reveal. So, but it was really, really great. I loved this issue.
Dr. Aphra is like the Indiana Jones in a way of the Star Wars galaxy, and Dr. Aphra number 6. Marie Wilson writes a solid review for the Star Wars Comics of the Week every week on BeyondTheBlastDoors.com, and I thought your review was really spot on with this issue. What is it about this Dr. Aphra series, the second installment of Dr. Aphra's story, that you think is really intoxicating to the point that the casual Star Wars fan or someone that's watching the show live right now, they should hop on while it's only 6 issues deep?
The biggest thing is just the twists and turns, which are super typical of Dr. Aphra's stories, even from the back when she was in the Darth Vader comic series. But there's so many surprises all the time. her personality is just a delight to witness because she's so cavalier and says things that are ridiculous and kind of terrifying that she's saying them to the people she's saying them to. So excuse me. But yeah, you're like, did she really just say that? But she's just such a delight. And I will say that the way this issue started, so this is the start of a new arc, and you could really jump in at this issue. You'd miss out on a little bit, but the way that it just kind of opened up this brand new mission for her makes it such that if you really just want to jump in now, you really can.
I think it's a really exciting book. I think the writing is really solid. And again, this is Dr. Aphra number 6, the engine job part 1, Headhunted. This is written by Alyssa Wong, illustrated by Ray Anthony Height, Robert Gill, and Victor Olazaba. We also have Rochelle Rosenberg on this project as well. Again, Marie Wilson every week on BTBD. Well, this is BTBD Live, but on BeyondTheBlastDoors.com, always giving a really solid review. You gave this an 8 out of 10, Marie.
Yes.
I think, though, if we're ranking the Star Wars comics that are out right now in 2020, the Star Wars mainline with Charles Soule, you have Darth Vader, Greg Pak, you have the Alyssa Wong, Dr. Aphra, you have the Star Wars Adventures. Kevin Scott jumps on and off about that. He's kind of busy, too, with High Republic. When we're ranking the current comics right now, does this issue elevate the story? Are we still trying to feel it out to the point where it is, at the top of our Star Wars list here as 2020 comes to an end?
Well, I will say that they introduced Ronan Tagg, and so you thought he was going to be this big bad that carried through multiple issues, and then last issue, Dr. Aphra blew up his penthouse, and he's no longer with us. So his aunt, Lady Domina, took over, and man, is she a powerhouse. So this just like badass woman coming in and sort of just taking control of everything is just really cool to witness.
Yeah.
So it definitely kind of like this, instead of it being a white male,
you got enough of them.
Yeah, so it was this awesome woman that kind of took over everything. So I really like where they're going with this.
Real quick, before I let you go, we found out today, I believe, it might have been yesterday even, that Star Wars The Rise of Skywalker is going to be, the comic adaptation is canceled. Now, what that means is either Marvel decided this thing is not going to happen at all, or it could be released as a trade back, and that's it. I think this was supposed to drop in June, and they're just saying it's just not going to happen. What's your take on this as far as someone who is a fan of the comic adaptations of these movies? Is this really disappointing? Or is this, it's a casualty of the pandemic and we'll move on as comic fans?
Well, for me, number one, obviously, I love Rise of Skywalker. So there's that. And number two, I liked how the comic book adaptations expanded the story. There were scenes in the Rogue One comic book adaptation that were not in the movie and not in the book, and I thought that was really cool, and there was a potential for that, and so that's really disappointing. And I don't know, I'm really bummed about it. I really am. So fingers crossed that it becomes a trade paperback.
We will cross our fingers. Marie Wilson, when people want to talk Star Wars comics with you, where is the best place for them to go?
You can find me on Twitter at Alia Morgaine.
All right, wonderful. Marie Wilson, thank you so much for joining us, as always, here on BTBD Live. This is episode 98, 2 away from 100. I'm like really surprised that we've made it to episode 100. Honestly, it's been like 4 years, so maybe we should have done this like a year and a half ago. But nonetheless, I'm going to bring Arezou back in, and Marie, we will say goodbye until next week.
Awesome. Bye.
All right, Marie Wilson with BeyondTheBlastDoors.com. I'm so glad that she could stop by. She sent me a message right before the show, and she goes, hey, are we still doing the show? I'm like, yeah, girl, we're doing the show. And she's like, you never sent me the info.
You gotta confirm with people.
I gotta confirm. I need to send emails. And text messages.
Emails. We're not all just waiting.
I need to start using the Google Calendar. That's what I need to do. We have Jordan Mason with us in just a couple of minutes. He'll join us. But real quick, let's go ahead. Just for keeping things moving along here, we are going to go ahead. You know what? Jordan actually is in. He looks like he is ready to go. So let's just do it. Let's just bring Jordan in. I think it's how we should do this. I think that makes a lot of sense. Joining us now on BTB Live, episode 98, we have Cinelinx and StarWars.com's Jordan Mason. How are you doing, sir? It is so good to see you.
Hey, guys. I appreciate you having me on here.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun to be talking Star Wars here with you in the next, 10 minutes or so. I want to dive right into it, Jordan, if we can. You have a report, The Bad Batch. It's the Clone Wars spinoff for Disney Plus, and it sounds like we're going to have a familiar Mandalorian now making an appearance on that series. Can you just kind of break down what you've been able to uncover?
Well, it unfortunately hasn't been a whole lot. From what I've heard, is that Bo-Katan will end up popping up in the Bad Batch as well. So she's going back to her cartoon roots there after getting the live action debut the other week. I heard this earlier last week and spent the better part of 2 or 3 days trying to get more information. But all I could really get from 3-4 different sources is that she's in there, but I have no idea how she's going to pop in there just yet. More, I'm sure it'll be played by Katie Sackhoff as well. But I did a whole lot of digging. I heard from 2 separate people, like in the same day, saying, hey, she's popping up. I also saw that there's some merchandise that would normally be associated with the Bad Batch that had her name on it as well, which was one of the first clues that I got. And then I heard from a random other person that it was happening. Then I dug in, talked to some of my other people that I normally do with this stuff, and I got really solid that she's in there. I don't know how, but I know she's in there.
I'm really excited for it to see this story. I think it's a really interesting way to do a spinoff of the Clone Wars. It's not the first place I would have gone. I did like these characters as far as the time we got to spend with them in season 7. So I'm cautiously optimistic, I would say the least. And I, you know what, I know that Mandalorian's a big topic, and I know Arezou has a question for you. So we'll go there next. But just super excited about what the Bad Batch has to offer.
Yeah.
Okay, so my Mandalorian question is, like, with this week we have Dave Filoni's directing. We think Ahsoka's going to be there. So what I want to know is, like, do you think she's going to play like a really big role in the episode? Do you think it's going to be like a minor bit like Luke at the end of The Force Awakens, where she just kind of turns around and then her whole thing is in the episode after? Like, I was kind of wondering what your thoughts on that were.
I don't know. That's a hard one. I mean, they've done such a really good job of keeping the Mandalorian story stuff locked. Aside from some casting stuff that came out, it's a tough call. I wouldn't be surprised if they go whole hog with it. And I mean, I've heard whispers, but I don't think this is all. I'm not entirely sure this would be the only episode that she shows up in. Which could mean that she's only in there for a little bit in this time, and then she pops up later in the next episode or down the road. But I have a strong feeling. I would imagine that it would be more than just a little bit, like they did with Luke at the end of Force Awakens. I imagine that it would be more. It feels like, based off what we've seen so far and where the story's heading, that's a major goal that he's been getting to. and where he's been leading the whole time, and that's only through resolution with her are they going to get to the next, whatever story point they're going to.
I think
Which would have to be more than 5 or 10 minutes.
Oh, absolutely. The payoff has to be big, and I think the assumption is with Dave Filoni directing that episode is that it will be substantial. He gets to bring his actual intellectual property, like the character he created, to the live screen. I think a lot of fans are really excited about that. What my question to you now is, it feels as if there is something larger being developed in the background, in the backdrop of The Mandalorian. I don't think it's done unintentionally, where season 1, we knew absolutely nothing. Season 2, we're being told one way or another, this character is showing up, this character is popping up, this planet's popping up. We're getting Boba Fett. We've gotten Bo-Katan. We anticipate seeing Ahsoka Tano here in the next 48 hours in her live-action debut. Do you have any reason to believe that we are witnessing the formation of a Star Wars equivalent to the MCU? Because at this point right now, we've got, 2 side projects that are related to this live-action world, we believe?
Oh, yeah. And I think they've been building that. And I think the first season of Mandalorian was built specifically with that in mind. The main goal being anybody. It's accessible to anybody. Anybody can get into it. Anybody can watch. And even how they've introduced these familiar characters to us, longtime fans, they've done it in a way that makes it easy for anybody to get into. And I think that's part of what they want to do, is this can be a stepping stone where people can get started on their Star Wars journey with The Mandalorian and still use it to introduce themselves to other stuff. I mean, I've had people at work, buddies of mine, come up to me and said, okay, they haven't really cared about the movies or anything like that, but they're loving The Mandalorian, and they hear all these character names, and they've come up to me. It's like, okay, I'm ready to get into Clone Wars or Star Wars Rebels, and I think that's kind of the genius of how they've set it up. They set it up to where it's so easy to get into that you naturally want to learn more about the bigger Star Wars universe.
And when you say that, I guess I'm curious, do you think it could be too much too soon, or is it a thing where we have complete confidence because you have Jon Favreau, who has experience launching a big universe, and you have Dave Filoni there as curator of the Star Wars story? This seems like it's like the best 1-2 combo that the franchise has to offer to do this.
I mean, I know there's always been some concern about too much too soon, as far as, we got one movie a year for a little bit there, and, Solo didn't do as well in theaters, and some people attributed that to, just being overwhelming. And I personally have never bought into that. I think that's more of a marketing thing, and the idea that they want to keep everything Star Wars as these big, huge event things, which I can understand, but it's also limited some of the marketing decisions that they've made, which, is very drastically different from their approach to, Marvel, which is all under the same house, essentially. You have 3-4 Marvel movies a year, and each of them do incredibly well, and because they're well marketed and they're pushed, and they just took a different strategy when it came to Star Wars stuff. But I think with TV shows, they're in a new territory where they could do more because they're TV shows, and they feel like you can consume them in bite-sized pieces, that I think people would be more willing to consume more of it. And it sounds like they're going to get to a point where they're going to have to. You've got season 3 of Mandalorian that they're currently working on. The Kenobi series, Cassian series. These are all going to come out within. They're all going to be filming around the same time and essentially ready to release around the same time. So they're going to have to figure out, how do we release 3 shows in at least a year's period of time. So, and I think it'll be easier with TV and streaming, but I don't think I mean, personally speaking, I can never get enough. So,
well, hey, there's a reason why we do an hour-long show every Wednesday night here live on YouTube is because we freaking love this stuff. I did want to ask, I guess, that you mentioned how there's, the Kenobi Project, and I tweeted it out yesterday. If you think about it right now, there are like 9 projects that are in development, whether it's Kenobi, the Bad Batch, the Clone Wars, the Ahsoka Sabine thing. There's possibly the Star Wars Rebels spinoff with Ahsoka and Sabine. You keep going down the list. Kenobi, Cassian Andor. You have the female-led project that we know like absolutely nothing about.
yeah,
it feels
Boba
like
Fett that's filming.
Right, the Boba Fett project that is supposed to happen in between Return of the Jedi and The Mandalorian. And so it just seems like a golden era for Star Wars, and to be a Star Wars fan. Disney really doubling down on Disney Plus and its streaming platform. Disney has said a few different ways, whether it's Bob Iger or Kathleen Kennedy, the focus has shifted from the big screen to streaming. That's probably exacerbated because of the pandemic. Of all the Star Wars stories that you're most excited about, and again, we're joined with Jordan Mason here of Cinelinx and BylineStarWars.com. Jordan, what is the upcoming Star Wars project that has you excited the most of the dozen that we have in development right now?
Oh my goodness.
I'm putting you on the spot, bud.
Man, that's tough. Gosh, because there's so much
it's a great problem to have.
really good stuff. Yeah, it's a great problem to have. It's tough, and it just depends on what some of it ends up being. I really love Taika Waititi's all of his work, and I'm super looking forward to his new film and what he does in Star Wars. But probably, if I had to say of what's been officially announced right now, is Kenobi. I grew up with the original trilogy. I wore up the VHS tapes on the originals. The first time I saw them on the big screen was special editions. So the prequels were really the ones I grew up with in my time period. And just seeing more of Kenobi and Ian McGregor is just feels like a dream come true. And I've heard some exciting things about, how they plan to do some stuff there and how it's going to, and Deborah Chow is an amazing director, and she directed still 2 of my favorite episodes of The Mandalorian. So I can't wait to see her with the series.
I think we're all in that same situation. Really excited to see what she does. Ben in the live chat, what Filoni and Favreau are setting up is as close to a Disney Lucasfilm retcon of the sequels that we're going to get. Wow, that's a hot take. I don't know if that's true.
I don't agree with that.
I just think that we're going to get to explore a lot of these characters more intimately. I like what you were saying about Kenobi. I hope that we get this like disheveled old hermit in the sands of Tatooine, contemplating with the fact that he lost his best friend, he lost the love of his life. He just killed like 3 months ago the guy that killed his master. I mean, this guy's messed up. Honestly, if he doesn't cry at least 3 times, I think that we should get our money back for that month, because this man needs to be broken. Damn it! I want this man to be just moaning and shouting at the sun. I just think I think I'm with you. I think that's my favorite, but that's also because I think that Ewan McGregor's Obi-Wan Kenobi is one of the 3 top things that we got from the prequels. I just think that Ewan freaking nailed that role.
It's a top 3 thing, period, for me, is him as Ewan, like in the whole thing.
Go off, Arezou. Why?
Well, no, because like Jordan, like I grew up on the prequels, and he is one of my favorite things about those movies, and just because it is such a nuanced portrayal and it just has like implications for the series as a whole, I think that elevates his performance as Obi-Wan to like one of my top 3 things about Star Wars, period.
I love it. I love it. We're joined by Jordan Mason here on BTB Live, episode 98. Jordan, so glad that you're able to join us. Thanksgiving is tomorrow for us Americans. I'd like to ask you, before you head out, what are you most thankful for this year?
Well,
it's hard in 2020.
It's been a rough year. It's been a rough year. Honestly, sappy as it sounds, for me personally, I'm very grateful that my family's been able to stay healthy. We have that's the tough part is we have multiple people in the house who fall into the high risk category, for one reason or another, including some of the kids. So it's been, really stressful to try and keep everybody healthy. And so far we have, which, I can't ask for anything more than that, especially right now.
Awesome. Well, we are thankful that you and your family are doing well, and we hope that you guys continue to do well as we get through this pandemic. Hopefully it's over sooner than later.
Yeah.
Jordan, if people want to follow you for more Star Wars conversation, what's the best way for that to happen?
Absolutely, the best way is, as far as Star Wars stuff goes, is probably going to be on my Twitter, which is right there across the screen at Jordan Mason, Mason with an I. But of course, you can always check me out on Cinelinx.com, where I'm posting, news about all kinds of movies, video games, of course, Star Wars speculation and scoops when they come across, and I can verify them.
Well, Jordan, we hope that you can join us in the very near future with some more of your scoops. That would be fantastic.
I appreciate you guys having me on.
Jordan, we'll talk soon, everybody. That was a lot of fun. Jordan Mason with Cinelinx joining us here on BTBD Live. Super cool to have him with us and talk about that report. And making time for us was super cool. So we hope to hear from him in the near future. And with that, we're just going to go ahead and dive in to the next topic here on BTBD Live. It's a topic that I think is really important to Arezou, a lot of folks in the Star Wars galaxy, and that is that there is a lot of frustration right now on, to be fair, both sides of this. Gina Carano, Star Wars fans clash. There was an article from Vanity Fair, Joanna Robinson and Anthony Breznican doing this story about hero worship turns to scorn, and it's really the story of a fan who identified with Gina and thought that she was powerful and thought that she was a bright spot in the Star Wars galaxy.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, she made some statements on social media that she says she didn't intend to create divisiveness and offend people, but she made some comments and certain actions regarding the trans community, for example. And then she's also made some statements about joining Parler, a social media platform that is created basically for conservatives to be free of the fake news. But I would say, as someone who knows a lot of journalists, I think there's a lot of concerns about journalistic integrity and bias. And so that platform is highly controversial right now. The crux of this is separating the character you see on screen and the actor portraying that character. And can you leave it at the door when watching the story unfold on screen? Selfishly, as a Star Wars fan, we may not want to see the series suffer because we like the story. We want to see what the writers have planned out. We want to see that unfold. But there are also folks that have concerns about someone who is so open about their stance having a role in this galaxy. And so ours is kind of opening it up to you. You're someone who says that you have a challenge. You struggle separating the two. I'd like to know why you feel that way.
I genuinely cannot separate the two, because I look at this woman and all I see is the bigoted transphobe who felt the need to mock pronouns, who has joined I like, David, you're being very polite about the whole thing. I don't have the same restraint. Who has joined an alt-right social media platform, who regularly signal boosts homophobes and racists. Like, I look at this and I see this woman going, okay, so you personally, the woman I'm looking at now, is pro a section of the country that feels that people like me don't belong there. I cannot leave that at the door. And there's precedent for other reasons, not like hot button reasons, just there's precedent for other reasons in other forms, in other movies, other series, whatever, to just recast somebody. And that's what I think, if they have a story for Cara Dune that they want to play out, recast her. This woman does not need to be on the payroll. She does not need to be there.
I think it's interesting because you mentioned that. And so, for example, in America, you have the freedom of speech. You're able to say what you think. That is a freedom of America. And I think that the difference between, say, Gina, and then you have like Luke. I said Luke Skywalker. Mark Hamill is incredibly vocal about his liberal political stance.
Right.
And I think the difference, and I could be wrong, but it seems to me, and I try and be on the outside of this. I have the easy job on this show because I've specifically made it to where I can say what I want, but I'm also the moderator, and so I can kind of like gauge it. And so as an outsider looking in, I would say the difference is because if you take a Mark Hamill compared to Gina's situation, Mark is trying to have a more inclusive. He has more inclusive views, and Gina's seem to be hurtful. Now, to be fair to her, she did retract her statements. In fact,
okay, she retracts her statements. She's like, "Oh, I didn't mean it. I learned my lesson. Now I'm gonna go make a Parler account and start retweeting racists." Like, she has the freedom to say whatever the hell she wants. You're right. She is not free of the consequences of that. If I walk into work tomorrow and start insulting my boss, I have every right to say that. My boss is not under any obligation to keep me in their employ.
mm-hmm.
You are not free from the consequences of what you say. And to the point, she has her opinion, but like, human rights are not an opinion. They are not up for public debate. Like Marie Wilson likes The Rise of Skywalker. I hate it. That's an opinion. Somebody's humanity based on who they are is not a matter of opinion. And like, for her to just be out there and be bigoted like this and to keep her job is horrifying. And this is like, it is causing people to walk away. It's causing people to call for her to be recast. Like, that's the consequence of this, is that they are losing audience by keeping someone like this on the payroll. It's like anytime Mark Hamill will say something a little more liberal leaning, people are like, well, you should keep the politics out and you've lost a fan. That's the consequence, is that he's lost a fan. Whether or not he cares that somebody takes issue with his, more liberal, like, I guess, more inclusive view, whether or not he cares, that's his business. But that's the consequence of that action. And I think the company needs to stand behind trans people. They need to stand behind the people who love them. And like, my whole thing is, I know there's some people who like can't relate because like they aren't trans. They don't know anybody who's trans maybe. So like, my whole challenge to you, if you're out there and struggling with this, is pretend it wasn't about trans people. Pretend it was about something that affects you, be it your race, your religion, your gender, whatever. Pretend it was something specifically targeted at you or somebody you love very much. Would you want this franchise to stand behind somebody who made comments like that? Or would you want them to face consequences for the stuff they say? Like, just change, sort of change the thing she's saying and change it to something more applicable to yourself. And then ask yourself if you'd still be okay with having her on the payroll, if you'd still be able to if you would still be able to separate the two. So that's what I put out to you.
Yeah, I think, and first off, I want to reiterate that here on Beyond the Blast Doors, like, our biggest thing is that everyone gets their opinion, everyone gets to express their opinion, and everyone gets to be respectful. And I will say that I think that everything that you've said is incredibly honest and fair. I'd be kind of curious to find out how aware Disney, I would imagine Disney, Lucasfilm is aware of the scuttle about her comments on social media. I would be interested in knowing how they view it. Because here's the thing, Micro, we're on Twitter and we're in this, like, not a vacuum, but we're in the weeds of that Twitter community. And so, when I go on social media, trending in my area is #fire Gina Carano. But the casual fan probably has absolutely no idea. And I think the casual fan would be someone that would see The Mandalorian and not give two rips about her political views, her religious affiliation, what she does on the weekend. And so traditionally, and just to be fair, because you're being honest about how you view this, I think what she's done is wrong. And traditionally, I am someone who has separated what you see on the screen to what happens in real life. And I think the only reason why I'm even aware of what she said and how she's some would say apologized, some would say backtracked. I think that's fair to say. Okay. I think that it's fascinating to see the response and how big the people that are aware seem to be hurt. And for valid reasons like you just shared. You feel like you feel it,
But-
it's damaging to you.
But that's the thing within this community. Like you say, we're in a bubble, and I agree.
Mhm.
We're in that bubble. First of all, so is Lucasfilm, so they can't not know. But also, too, like when we're in this bubble and we're like, oh, something like Dark Troopers, we're like, hey, that's great for like the people in the bubble and the people in the know. So why is it okay to cater to? I don't think that's a bad thing necessarily, but to cater to the bubble when it comes to something in the grand scheme of human rights, inconsequential, Dark Troopers, which is exciting for the story. Don't get me wrong, but it's like, in the grand scheme of things, inconsequential to cater to that bubble for something like that. But then like be like, well, it's just the bubble who knows about this. So if the casual fans don't know, then why would we do anything? Casual fans don't know what Dark Troopers are, so why would you include them? Do you know what I mean? Like when are you catering to this bubble and when are you not? You need to cater when it matters too.
I think that Disney and Lucasfilm have standards that they stand for, and I would be curious. I mean, there has to be some conversation between Gina Carano's camp and Disney about moving forward, how she could even stay in at this point. Because again, my point is we are hyper aware of it, and because we're aware of it, we have feelings about it. But how big is the stream of complaints in the Disney and Lucasfilm? Because I think there's a far greater percentage that is unaware, not making a right or wrong. But I think it will be interesting to see what happens. What is the story that's going to unfold? There's a theory that Cara Dune, every time she pops up in The Mandalorian, the child, it grows uneasy. There's a real likelihood that Gina Carano's character is not really a supporting character. She's more of a cameo. Maybe that character dies out. We have no idea of how this gets resolved. But I think it's going to be interesting because I think the longer this series continues and the longer Gina Carano is around, I think it's become more of a problem for the fans that are bothered and are not just bothered, just aware of what she's had and some of the things that she says she stands for. And again, I agree with freedom of speech, but also has to be a respect for all human life. And
you're not free of consequence, no matter what you're free to say.
I think
that's where I land on it.
I think that's right. That's right. You're not free of consequence. I think that's a great way to end it. What do you think about Gina Carano in Star Wars, the statements she's made on social media, the divisiveness? Is it or is it not appropriate for an actor to do that on social media? Let us know down in the comments below. To continue the Star Wars conversation, you can also hit us up in the live chat. A lot of folks talking about this, and it's kind of all over the place. About this topic. And so we'll pull up a few. We're going to keep it responsible and respectable. And then we're going to move on pretty quickly because we have a little bit more Star Wars that we want to talk about. Saint of Abiyah says, no, we should all have our rights. Matthew says, I think she messed up her chance for a spin-off series. That's interesting because there was a rumor that there was a live action series about 3 months ago in the works that had Cara Dune involved. Andre says
if they made it a comic book instead.
That's interesting. Andre says Gina did nothing wrong. Galanorian Saber. Cara Dune was created by Filoni and company. Gina just portrays her, which maybe goes to your point that character can be recast.
I like the character, but I just cannot separate this character I like from the bigoted woman who portrays her. So if they did a comic book, a recasting, animation, whatever, I am there. But as it is, no.
Well, I want to switch gears now. Arezou, I want to have some fun with this because it's a really cool effort that we're doing here on Beyond the Blast Doors. And it is the Hyper Toy Drive. The Hyper Toy Drive is an effort between 12 different Star Wars content creators here on YouTube. And it's a really incredible effort that's happening here. We'll run the Galaxy, BTB Live here, Bombad Cast, Hal Chronicles, Idiots Array, Kanata's Castle, Kessel Run Transmissions, The Sith List, Star Wars Explained, Steel Wars, Tarkin's Top Shelf, and Tatooine Sons. We're all getting together so that way we can be talking about Toys for Tots and the fact that 2020 has hurt a lot of folks and the need is still great. That's not going away anywhere. And so we're collecting Star Wars toys for kids in need this holiday season. It's really simple to do. All you have to do is go to beyondtheblastdoors.com and you can find at the very top, you'll see the logo. You'll click on that logo. You'll go to an article. We have a link to an Amazon wish list. Any item that you buy off that list immediately gets shipped to our P.O. box. We'll be distributing these gifts after December 4th to the New Jersey area. It's kind of hard to do like a national or a global toy drive. So this effort, we're going to do New Jersey. We're going to bounce around, and the hope is next time we do this, we can do like Canada, where Arezou is, or we could do the UK, where Shannon is. And that's how we'll make our impact in different parts of the world. And we just want to say thank you to those who have already given. I believe we're at 100 donated items, which is pretty cool. They just keep flooding in, which is just a beautiful thing to see. And we actually, like I mentioned earlier, Pete set out this week. But we do have an interview with a member of the Toys for Tots organization with Pete Fletcher. So we're going to go ahead and cue this up and hear why Toys for Tots is so appreciative of Beyond the Blast Doors and all of these content creators rallying together for kids in need this holiday season.
We're joined by Chris Saldano from Toys for Tots here in New Jersey. Chris, how are you doing today?
Great. Thank you for having me.
So, Chris, tell us a little bit about what you do for Toys for Tots, and tell us a little bit about Toys for Tots.
I am part of a detachment here in New Jersey called the Hunterdon County Bulldogs. We cover all of Hunterdon County for Toys for Tots. We work with a Central Jersey coordinator who's Chief Warrant Officer Nick DeAndrea. And anything that we collect and gather over the Toys for Tots season goes to a Central Jersey location and then gets distributed to all of Central Jersey from there.
What makes this year so different than other years that you've been collecting for Toys for Tots?
One of the things that I've found, especially during Toys for Tots, is that people are extremely giving and nice. The problem with this year is that we're, even though people are extremely giving and nice, everybody's kind of hurting this year with, everything going on with the pandemic and COVID and the fact that, people have been so limited. You had mass amounts of people out of work, a lot of people having less funds this year to do anything with because we're not allowed to actually interact with and contact people and be around as many people as we normally would be.
Right.
Collections have been difficult. People aren't going out to stores as much. Everybody's ordering things online and doing things that, in that nature. And that poses a problem for everybody, across the nation. And for Toys for Tots, they have drop-off locations all over the country. The problem is that even with those drop-off locations, if people aren't going to them to drop things off, then, toys aren't coming in. And that means we've got less to be able to do something with to give to those that are needy. Typically right now with the way that things are, I've got my trailer that's staged right outside the house. And typically I'll go with the, around the trailer, and we usually do pickups and push everything into the trailer and then bring everything down to the warehouse.
Excellent.
We'll make anywhere between, typically, I don't know how this year's going to go, but, we'll typically make anywhere between like 5 or 6 runs from here to the warehouse, a season. This year we haven't done one yet. And, we're already coming to the end of November. So
I want to give you an opportunity right now to talk directly to people who can hear your voice, go straight to the Beyond the Blast Doors toy drive and make a donation. What would you tell folks today?
There are still so many people out there in need, and you never know who it might be that you might be helping. It could be, your friend, your neighbor, the kid down the block. You really don't know. So donating is still important. And I would, implore you and ask you that if you have the opportunity to donate, even if it's something small, please do so.
Well, thank you so much, Chris. We really appreciate it, and we're glad to be able to be a part of this. And happy holidays to you and your family, and thank you so much for joining us today.
I greatly appreciate it. Thank you so very much.
I really do appreciate that conversation that Pete was able to have there with Chris, and Chris making time so that we could talk about the Hyper Toy Drive. Just a super cool effort. Again, it's around the galaxy, Beyond the Blast Doors, Bombad Cast, Holo Chronicles, Idiot's Array, Kanata's Castle, Kessel Run Transmissions, The Sith List, Star Wars Explained, Steel Wars, Tarkin's Top Shelf, and Tatooine Sons. Just blown away by the support, Arezou, that we've gotten so far on this. It's really, honestly, it's inspirational to me. It's cool to watch Alex and Molly on Star Wars Explained a couple days ago. They did a Q&A, and right off the top, they're talking about the Hyper Toy Drive, and Steele Saunders did it as well. I think everyone has done at least one shout out, and I think that's why we're starting to see the influx of generosity. So it's pretty cool to see unfold. I have to still donate. I felt like I couldn't lie. Like I just haven't done it yet, but I'm going to. I put like 30 items on the list. I'm gonna buy some comic books. Did you see the photo? There's like all these Lego sets, which that's great. We gotta get some literature in the hand of these youth. This is kind of funny. This is kind of funny. They're like, where's this comment? Gilster, David, do a YouTube video. Just show us how to do it. I like this one from Apprentice Ewok. Super easy to find an item and send it to BTBD. Had some extra money from coaching that I wasn't expecting, so I put in another order. Yeah. That's super cool. So Apprentice Ewok not just donated once, but twice. Super cool. We really appreciate that. Making a difference in kids' lives, which is really cool. Really, really just awesome. We have one more topic here left on BTB Live, going a little long this week, but my goodness, big thanks already to Marie Wilson for stopping by talking Star Wars comics, and Jordan Mason of Cinelinx and StarWars.com. Talk a little Bad Batch and a few other things. Had a blast with him. One more topic after this, though. Stay with us, though, because at the end of the show, we are announcing the hashtag so you can get your third and final entry into winning the Star Wars Black Series Snowspeeder. Again, $120. If you've commented on episodes 97 and 96, you got 2 entries. You'll comment in the comment section right after this live stream to be in under the third. We'll do the live giveaway next week here on BTB Live, so it'll be a lot of fun for that. Let's get into it. Really exciting here because right now it feels as if Disney could launch the Star Wars equivalent to the MCU with The Mandalorian. Star Wars fans got a treat with Bryce Dallas Howard and crew a few weeks ago. The live-action debut of Bo-Katan stole the show. There was incredible cinematography. There was music. The fact that Bo-Katan is on screen saying Ahsoka Tano's name blew me away. And so it's kind of twofold, and we'll start here. I would like to just ask Arezou, what is the importance of a live-action Bo-Katan? What does that allow to happen for this story moving forward that should have fans really excited?
So I think with the first season, they sort of made it like this standalone space Western, and that's what this show is. And then with the introduction of Bo-Katan, I think now they've kind of opened the doors, so it's tying all the animation in. So it's like, no, this is one universe, and now we're really gonna like dig into it. We're gonna get weird. We're gonna get like really deep into like the lore, like, you know, with Mandalore, and I guess the implication with Ahsoka Tano now with the Jedi. So I feel like it's feeling more like a part of the Star Wars tapestry, I guess.
I think that's great. It's the connected tissue, right? We talk about this. Someone who reads a lot of the books, reads a lot of the comics, watches the animated series, you're getting a return on your investment for spending all that time and energy following every move and tangent of the Star Wars canonical timeline. A live-action Bo-Katan brings in some of that connective tissue from Star Wars Rebels, from the Clone Wars. I think it even allows fans that are fans of the EU and all that Mandalorian culture that was established, I think it allows those fans to have some joy. It also makes the Mandalorian a backdrop now, doesn't it? Because you have Bo-Katan and she gets one episode. It was like 30-something minutes. Okay, well, they got Katie Sackhoff in that armor. She's asking about where the Darksaber is. She knows about Moff Gideon. There's got to be more to her story arc than just that one episode. And with the inclusion now of Ahsoka Tano and confirmed the way it was on screen, there was a rumor that there is still an active rumor that there is an Ahsoka live action series in development for Disney Plus. And it's a question that we asked Jordan Mason. I'm going to pose it now. Are these the key ingredients to forming a Star Wars equivalent of the MCU on Disney Plus? Is this the future of the Star Wars story?
I think so. I think one thing the books have done really successfully is that they will tell a standalone story, but then they'll dip into either another book or into the movies, and then they'll make it feel connected. So that's something the books do really well. So I think it's good to see that the TV and I guess visual media, like the TV, maybe down the line movies, like will do that more, because I think some of it's been lacking in that sort of connective area beyond the odd name drop here and there. So if they're going to now mix all that together, make a sort of MCU where you don't have to see all of it, but if you do see all of it, then it sort of informs your view of it a little more and you can kind of be a little deeper into it, then I think that's a good thing.
I think you're right. And I'm just so excited. The pieces are there, not just on screen, Arezou, but also behind the camera, in the writing room. You have Jon Favreau, who did Iron Man, set the framework, the foundation for the MCU, this 10, 11-year juggernaut that made billions and billions of dollars at the theaters and in stores with merchandise. There's no one better to be doing this for your universe. And that's why I'm like sitting here going, is the Mandalorian, and we've seen even scenes that seem to mimic Iron Man, is this the Iron Man of the Star Wars MCU? And it certainly feels that way. You know, we know that Kevin Feige is going to be producing a Star Wars something that is a film. We don't know what that movie is, but he's now involved in the Star Wars sandbox. And now you have Jon Favreau just flexing his muscle here with the Mandalorian. It certainly seems that I don't think there's going to be a reboot on the Star Wars story itself, in the sense of, listen, the movies we have are the movies we will have. Episode 7, 8, and 9 will be the 7, 8, and 9. They are not going to be retconned, and we're not going to do a world in between worlds thing from Star Wars Rebels where we play with the time continuum and the galaxy. These movies are the movies, folks. But what we're getting here is a reboot in approach, strategy, and branding with the Star Wars story. Something that's more accessible for the fan, something that's easier to follow. And here's the thing. Whether you have enjoyed The Mandalorian or not, and I think overall it's been high praise, you get, and when I say you, Disney and Lucasfilm, they seem to get every week for 2.5 months, they get fans glued to streaming to the streaming service. They don't need to promote this show because we're tweeting about it 24/7.
Free promo.
This incredible machine is already in front of us. And so maybe in a way we have answered our own question, Arezou. I got to ask you this, though. We also have this cavalcade of directors that are playing in Star Wars now, because Deborah Chow, Rick Famuyiwa, we have Dave Filoni, we have Bryce Dallas Howard. We just had Carl Weathers arguably direct a top 5 Star Wars something, with just how shocking this reveal was at the end of the last episode. Do we feel like The Mandalorian is a testing ground for those first directors to get their Star Wars movies or their Star Wars series?
Maybe. I think it's a testing ground to sort of bring them into the, I guess, so yes, I am agreeing with you. I think it's a testing ground to sort of bring them into the family, especially with the directors they had in season 1, just sort of like see how they play in this sandbox. And like a lot of them either came back or they were given movies. So like Taika and Deborah Chow aren't coming back, but that's because they have other Star Wars projects to develop now. So yeah, I think that is what this is. Yes.
I'm really excited to see what happens next. Listen, if we're able to sit here on a Wednesday night 3 years from now, Arezou, and be like, remember on episode 898 where we said there might be like an MCU type of thing in Star Wars? I want to be right. I think it would be so much fun. And just imagine the scale now of Star Wars Celebration, especially in 2022. If that's the backdrop to announce this universe, it's going to be overwhelming emotionally, mentally. It will be a high in the Star Wars community for sure.
I just want to say Gilster in the chat is shouting out Robert Rodriguez as well as one of the directors this season. And yes, Robert Rodriguez, it's going to get fun. It's going to get weird. I cannot wait for his episode.
Robert Rodriguez, also another member from the MCU community playing in the Star Wars galaxy. So pretty cool there. We want to know what you think about the possibility of a Star Wars equivalent MCU happening right now. Are we seeing the framework on Disney Plus? Let us know down in the comments below. You can also let us know in the live chat. That's where we'll go real quick before we start talking about our Star Wars giveaway. And it seems like everyone's having a good time. You know, we've had highs and lows in this episode, from talking about really fun Star Wars adventure to some very serious topics about respect and inclusion. And I love that we can have that spectrum of conversation here on Beyond the Blast Doors.
If it was all happy all the time, I think we'd be lying to ourselves.
Right? Josh showed up in the live chat. Josh Most from Hall Chronicles. I don't know why he just likes to promote himself. Josh Mo, Star Wars Coast to Coast. All right, whatever. Hey, everyone, we're going to do this because it's really important that we cap off the show with a big thank you. You know, we're here in the holiday season, and we wanted to do something big. And Josh is with us in the live chat because he's the one that's enabling us to do this. We're giving a holiday giveaway here on BTB Live. We're going to try and do monthly giveaways moving forward on the show. It's just one more way that we want to show that we care and appreciate about you and the time that you invest in our network, and especially with this show, BTB Live, celebrating 4 years, which is just incredible. Episode 100 is just a couple of weeks away. Here's how you enter to win this. You see it unboxed. It is a box Star Wars Black Series Snowspeeder valued at $120. To win this, all you have to do is subscribe to the BTBD YouTube channel. That's Beyond the Blast Doors. We'd say BTBD, BTBD for short, because sometimes it's hard to say Beyond the Blast Doors. You have to like this live show, and you have to comment on this episode here on YouTube. I know that we're streaming to Facebook and Twitter, but to enter, you have to comment on the YouTube episode. Give us your favorite Empire Strikes Back memory. Maybe it's your favorite scene, your favorite humor. Maybe it's actually a Empire Strikes Back story that happens in comic or book. Let us know that in the comment section, and then just include hashtag Frost Covered Wampas. That will get you entered, and you can enter up to 3 times, and here's how. You can comment with your favorite Empire Strikes Back moment with hashtag Frost Covered Wampas on this episode 98, episode 97, and episode 96. We have all those episodes collected for you right now on our YouTube channel. Just go to the Beyond the Blast Doors live playlist. We've made it super simple. And we have a few people in the live chat that have already entered not once, but twice, and soon a 3rd time. Matthew says there are going to be at least 5 spin-off series for The Mandalorian. And he also says winning. He really wants to win this damn Snowspeeder. I think anybody should. Listen, it's $120 value. The Star Wars Black Series, 6-inch scale. This thing is massive, and it can be yours. We'll do that live raffle on December 2nd, which is just going to be a lot of fun. And then December 18th, we're actually going to be doing a network-wide live stream where it will be the final episode of Season 2 of The Mandalorian. I'm going to bring up my friend, Arezou Amin, one last time, so that way we can get out of here and blast this joint, because we've gone a little long this week, but we had a lot we wanted to talk about. Arezou, before I let you go, it is Thanksgiving over in the States, and since you do this show with an American, I'm going to make you do it. What are you most thankful for this year in 2020, a year of challenges?
Okay, in this year of challenges, I know it's a common, very popular sentiment, but I am thankful that my family is all healthy. Like Jordan, there are high-risk individuals in my family, and I am very thankful that it has not touched our family yet. Hopefully not at all. Oh my God, knock on wood. But that is what I'm thankful.
Did you just knock on your head?
Yeah, if I can't find wood, I knock on my head. Is that not a thing everywhere?
No, it is. It crosses the border well. I do want to say that I'm with you on echo those sentiments. I got COVID a few weeks ago. My wife got COVID. My dad got COVID. And so the scary thing about this thing is it hits everybody differently, and it impacts everybody differently. And so that's why, as a network, we thought the best way we could join that conversation about the awareness and the pandemic was the Hyper Toy Drive and trying to do good for kids. So on a serious note, very thankful that I'm back to full strength. Although I don't think my first time back on a treadmill is going to go well. My wife is doing better, and my dad is doing better. So for that, that's a serious, very thankful for that. You can, of course, let us know what you're thankful for down in the comments below or the live chat. And now I have a very less serious. This is fun. So I splurged. This is the first time that I bought a Lego set in 3 years. And so I got the Slave One. Look at this bad boy. I got the Slave One Lego. I understand the box says 10 and over, and I'm twice that and more, but I'm really excited to build that Lego set and hopefully get the Razor Crest.
You're over 10.
Yeah, well, I mean that's broad. There's Lego sets now that come out with 18 above, so I should probably invest in those. But no, just excited to have that early Christmas gift to me. So we find different ways to cope with the reality of 2020, and that's how I do it. Arezou, before we get out of here, what's the best way to follow you if we want to continue the Star Wars conversation with you?
If you'd like to continue this conversation in a civil manner, I can be found on Twitter at Arezou Amin. If you are uncivil, I am very liberal with the block button. I'm just putting that out there because it got controversial tonight. So I'm just going to put it out there that uncivil people get blocked.
No
questions asked.
She is very honest about that. Hey, I'm always so thankful to be in this Star Wars conversation with you. If you want to continue it, you can always hit me up at Ammo on the Air on Twitter. Also, you can follow the show at BTBD Star Wars, where both accounts. I tweet more personal things from my Ammo on the Air account. BTBD Star Wars is just like news and Star Wars commentary. And so we have a lot of fun there. Really appreciate everyone checking out us there on Twitter, also Facebook. Our community is growing every week, and it's because of you spreading the word. So quite literally, you are the spark of the Star Wars conversation. And so with that, I just want to say thank you so much. A big thanks again to Jordan Mason of Cinelinx and StarWars.com for joining us to talk about his report on the Bad Batch and other Star Wars frivolity. I want to thank Arezou for joining us. We had Marie Wilson to talk Star Wars comics and beyond the panel. You can join us every Wednesday, 10 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Pacific on YouTube. We're also available on podcast form, iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, and SoundCloud. A live watch party of The Mandalorian Chapter 13 this Friday morning. If you're a Patreon, find out more information on that, beyondtheblastdoors.com.
Thank you for watching. Beyond the Blast Door. Be sure to subscribe to our channel. Don't forget, give us a thumbs up and leave a comment. Beyond the Blast Door, a Star Wars conversation.